I'm here. I'm just gonna turn on my video.
All right, thanks, Jenna. So we have our Vice Chair, Jenna Erickson, and our Chair, Dennis Battenberg, via phone. We have Drew Nichols with SCTA, RCPA. I'm Dana Trey with SCTA. We have Emily Heinzelman with West County Community Services and Kathleen Cortez with Sonoma County Area Agency on Aging. Ross Clendenden with SCTA, RCPA. Stephen Schmitz, Sonoma County Transit. Yuri Koslin with San Rosa City Bus. And Mohammed Ali with MV Transit. Anyone else? All right. Do we have any public comment on items that are not on the agenda?
Recording.
All right, I see Colin has joined us. Thank you. Right, the next item number 3 is approval of the meeting notes. We do have 2 sets of notes in here. We did not have a quorum on for the September 20th meeting, so we have notes from both July 17th and September 20th. And I'm not sure we have a quorum today, so let's take a moment and
yeah, I'm looking up the numbers. My gut tells me I don't think we have a quorum today. 1, 2,
5, 6. We have 6. Is the person calling in from the phone number ending in 7120? Is that somebody? Is that person on video as well?
It's Bob Cuneo.
Oh, hi, Bob. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear Bob's voice. We haven't heard.
If you haven't heard my voice before, there's something wrong.
I was in too long, I was going to say.
It has been. And I believe I'm on the road to recovery, so I'm back.
Nice. Wonderful.
That's good to hear, Bob. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So I think that brings us to 7 members.
7. I count 7. The roster shows 13 members. Do we count 7 as quorum or 8 as quorum? Do we round with an odd number?
I think it would be 7 if we have 14.
13 on the member list.
We have 13 on the member list, so I think 7 would be
So 7.
Quorum.
Yeah, I see 8. So I would say we have a quorum, actually.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Drew.
Okay.
All right, so does anybody have any comments on the meeting notes or corrections? All right, then would somebody like to make a motion on those?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any objections? All right, great, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, item number 4, is notice of officer elections for 2023. This is just a heads up that at the first meeting in 2023, which will be on January 17th, we will hold elections for the chair and vice chair positions of this committee. So think about if you're interested. You can let me know ahead of time, but we will be taking nominations at the January 17th meeting. This is probably a good time to mention that after March 1st, we will go back to regular Brown Act meetings. The governor has withdrawn the emergency order, which allows us to have our meetings, our public meetings virtually. So that, will make it a requirement for members of the committee to be in person, or otherwise, if they can't be, go through a process and to be able to participate virtually. So I do plan to bring some more information about that to our January meeting, just all the details on the Brown Act and what would be required if you are wanting to participate but can't do so in person. So are there any questions on the notice of elections or anything I mentioned on the Brown Act? All right. Then moving along to item number 5. This group had asked for a sort of primer on transportation funding, and which is a very large topic. So I am bringing kind of some higher level information to you today. And if there are more specific questions that come out of this discussion, or things that any of you are interested in hearing more information about, we can certainly bring back a kind of a section 2 of the discussion and take a deeper dive. So I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So I'll just start by kind of giving a broad overview of various sources of funding that are used for transportation in California. We have a number of different categories of sources of funding. These include funding that comes from vehicle registration and license fees, excise-based, state-based excise tax, which includes gas taxes and fuel taxes. There's the state incremental excise tax, which comes from gasoline tax, and the federal fuel tax, which is both a tax on gasoline and diesel. We have a 25% general sales tax, which is known as TDA, or Transportation Development Act funding. There are local sales tax measures that go to transportation. And then there's the state diesel sales tax and excise tax, which also go toward various programs for transportation. There are transportation bonds, state truck weight fees, and tolls. So these are kind of the sources of funding that go toward highways, roads, rail transit, bus transit, bridges, active transportation, paratransit, and various other supportive programs. And so here's a little bit of a deeper dive into sources that fund transit within California. And some of these sources fund particular types of transit, particular transit programs. So not all transit has access to all of these funds, but these include the Federal Rail Authority grants, which funds the transit or intercity rail program. There are a number of federal transit grants that some of you are familiar with, including the 5310, 5307, and 5311 funding, going toward bus transit operations and capital. There's the State Transit Assistance Program and the county transit that comes from the Transportation Development Act funds. There are also county sales tax measures and local funds, which kind of include a number of different things, including fares collected by transit, property taxes, and in some places, transit is funded through private and joint development. There's the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, also known as SB1, and that was an increase in diesel sales tax. And then there's the cap and trade auction proceeds, and those funds go toward sustainable communities and clean transportation investment programs, which can go toward transit operations, planning, low carbon transit, and the high-speed rail program, as well as the intercity rail program. So these are kind of the a broad scope of what can go toward transit operations. There are additional funding sources, as well as some of these sources that also go toward capital for transit. And I'm not going to get into the details of those today, but really just wanted to highlight some of the operating sources. And then kind of taking a look locally, the local bus transit sources of funding in Sonoma County are shown on this slide. And so on the left, this is back from 2017, but it probably represents a more typical year than the last couple of years have been in terms of transit funding. So as you can see, there are sources of funding going toward local bus transit from federal, state, local, and fares, including other local sources. So the bulk of the funding does come from the state for operations, and that is mostly through the Transportation Development Act and state transit assistance. So over on the right, this pie chart just shows really that a very large percentage of this funding goes towards vehicle operations and administration, and then the other pieces would be vehicle maintenance and facilities maintenance. So that's really what I have to share today. I would be interested in hearing questions anybody has, or if there's areas that I mentioned or didn't mention that you would like to hear more about. We can certainly take a deeper dive into funding for transportation, or more specifically for transit, in the future based on interest. So I'll just open it up for questions and comments now.
I have a question. What is the average contribution from these agencies?
I'm sorry, Bob, did you say the contribution from the agencies?
Yeah,
Could you
how much on average do they put together, for everybody?
Are you asking the contribution from state agencies or? I'm not sure I'm understanding your question, sorry.
What the average amount is that's collected from these agencies,
From which agencies?
state agencies?
From state agencies. I mean, I think that we could probably find information on the total state revenues that go toward transportation. I don't have that in front of me, but it's something that, you know, I'm sure we can find. The governor puts together a budget or adopts a budget each year, and that includes a section for transportation funding.
Can you go into more detail as to how much money from gets to the transportation and the paratransit? Because I'm concerned that there's not enough money getting to all the right places.
So where all the funding is going to. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of detail here. There's a lot of different funding programs. If there's a particular program you would like more information on, I can dig that up.
I'm just asking in general how much money gets to where it's actually supposed to go. Because there seems to be a problem in this state in particular, where the money doesn't always get to where it's supposed to go, and the people who rely on the programs never see a dime of it.
So are there particular programs that you would like more information on?
Can't think of one right now.
I would like to see paratransit funding.
So paratransit funding and fixed route funding, transit funding are combined into one operating cost. And so it's really based on where the fixed route is serving, and that will dictate the area that paratransit serves and the amount of funding that is going toward paratransit. And so, like I mentioned, the majority of the funding for transit operations come from state sources, which are the State Transit Assistance and Transportation Development Act funds. So are there, I heard some questions about the level of state revenue for transportation and some interest in some more specific information about operating revenue. Which we do have, some good information on operating revenue right now, but I could, you know, if there's interest in looking at it over time, that's something we could talk about. But are there other things that people are interested in hearing about?
Wondering if it's ever changed over time, because I feel like in a previous presentation, it was said that 25% of the funding, I don't know if it was Measure M or what, maybe it was the TDA claim, went to paratransit, and that wasn't enough to cover the services or the agency costs of delivering paratransit services. And I'm just wondering if we have an aging county and state, and more people getting with disabilities as they grow older, is that ever going to change, or is it always going to be 25%? Does that make sense, my question?
Yeah, to my knowledge, and be great if Stephen or you wants to chime in as well, but to my knowledge, you know, paratransit and fixed route transit are not separate funding. So there's not a specific amount that's carved out that's a fixed amount that can go to paratransit. It's really based on the service area of the fixed route system and the demand for paratransit.
So then the percentage, it's always a percentage.
No, yeah, I think what Dane is saying, Bob, and is that, and you know, not just Bob, but everyone. I mean, the federal government basically says that we have to provide service 3/4 of a mile from fixed route, and so it's the same funding, and it's not. There's not a specific funding split. It's you know, if there's a high demand, you know, for service, then we have to provide the service. We don't necessarily, we can't say, oh, we don't have enough money, so we're not going to provide paratransit services to the area within 3/4 of a mile. Once you get outside the 3/4 of a mile, that's an area that you don't necessarily have to serve with the funding, and so that's where you know, additional funding from local funding sources could be dedicated towards expanding services for seniors or people with disabilities. But from the paratransit, and we, Sonoma County and City Bus and Petaluma, for that matter, they're not here, but all abide by the 3/4 of a mile, which we're required to serve, and we're required to meet the demand within that area. Is that your understanding too, Stephen?
Yeah, so, you know, we need to provide paratransit service and we can't deny trips. So however much money that takes to offer that level of service, then that's what we budget for. And so it's really predicated on no trip denials. And so that's all what we budget for.
And I know from City Bus's standpoint, we offer free rides on fixed route to people that are paratransit eligible as a means to defer some of those costs, because it costs the individual less money to ride paratransit or to ride fixed route than does paratransit, and because we make it free, and it costs City Bus, you know, it's somewhere between, I'm just throwing out numbers, but you know, somewhere between $70 to $100 per trip on paratransit, where it's closer to $10 to $15 per trip on fixed route. So not just, you know, throughout the country, there's a lot of programs that are meant to augment the services that people with disabilities have as a means to not necessarily to reduce demand on paratransit and save money, so that those funds can be used for fixed route a lot of times, or you know, or to meet the demand of paratransit.
I have a question that kind of draws into this, and that was experienced. I get phone calls from people, and yesterday about 5:30, I got a call, and somebody said that they were denied a trip at the last minute, that it was done much prior to yesterday, and it was with the wheels. And they were denied a trip at 7 minutes to 5 yesterday afternoon, which involved this person trying to get a job that he'd been trying for months, going through, going to school, doing all these things, and jumping through a lot of hoops in order to get to go and earn a living and be off of the system. How can a trip be denied at 7 minutes before 5 o'clock, and you have no recourse in order to get another ride?
Well, thanks for that information, Bob. I'd be curious to hear more details about what happened there, and that shouldn't have happened. So
Absolutely shouldn't. He even left a message on the telephone for somebody to call him early in the morning and explain why, and that wasn't even done. When they opened, nobody would return the call.
well, I'd be happy to talk with you offline for more details, or if you could provide me with contact information.
Who am I talking to, please?
I'm sorry, this is Stephen Schmitz with Sonoma County Transit.
And thank you.
Yeah, just, I know Stephen's gonna follow up with Bob on that particular matter, but just to, yeah, the trip denials are very uncommon. I think both, I mean, that's something that the federal government comes in and monitors us every 3 years and looks at that data. And if there are signs of trip denials, like, if there, I mean, this is throughout the United States, they come in every 3 years and they're looking for those trip denials because historically people have, or agencies have denied trips on paratransit as a means to reduce the costs associated with paratransit. And so that's definitely something that is a huge red flag. And I know both Stevens, basically all agencies around the country monitor trip denials. And, there's two, so it's called capacity constraint denials is what we call it, whereas you don't have enough people to do the service. And we haven't had any of those denials in the last, like, I don't know, since I've been tracking. Maybe there's one where there just wasn't a vehicle to pick somebody up. But usually what happens is that somebody calls in and there's what we call an ADA negotiation. So somebody calls in and says, I need a trip at 10 o'clock. And so there's this negotiation window. So you can negotiate the trip. Federal government says you can negotiate the trip from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so you offer somebody a trip within that window and try to come to agreement. And last year we only had 2 instances where during that negotiation, the rider basically said, nah, that won't work for me. And that's what we call ADA negotiated optional denial.
I understand that, but this was said there are no drivers.
Yeah, that's a pretty unique situation, Bob. I think Stephen will follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
Right, are there any other questions or interests on the transportation funding item? All right, well, hearing none, let's move on to item number 6, which is roundtable updates. And we will start with the transit and paratransit operators. Stephen, would you like to start off with an update?
Sure, we have schedule changes for our fixed route service coming up December 11th. And we're still anticipating delivery of 3 additional 30-foot electric buses within the next couple months. That's really all I've got as an update for us.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Yuri, would you like to give an update on Santa Rosa?
Sure, I'll take Stephen's cue, and for electric buses, we have I know Sonoma County had the first electric buses rolling, and we're about to start rolling out our first 4 electric buses sometime before the end of the year. So we have three charging stations and 4 electric buses that are starting to be used right now, but are not in revenue service. And we do not have any planned schedule changes at this time that I'm aware of. Our council approved extension of the unlimited rides, year free program for high school students through the end of the school year, so through June 23. We're going to be replacing one of our Oakmont bus here pretty shortly. And I'm trying to think what else is useful information for the group. I guess that's it for now.
Mute my audio.
Yuri, I have a question for you. Are these new buses going to be loud enough for the blind to hear? I know that Bob might ask this question, but I'm asking it first. I noticed that a lot of the buses or newer vehicles aren't as loud as they used to be, and that's dangerous for those of us who are blind. Are they gonna make it so that they're loud enough for us to hear?
It's a good question. I know we did look into what type of additional, or what type of equipment the manufacturers had in to meet those concerns, and we did not. I'm looking for the email. We did not elect to get additional equipment on them. We were not. It was advised that it's kind of mixed. It's kind of ends in mixed results. But I guess maybe we have a future PUG meeting where we were able to see the vehicle in action for those who want to see it, and kind of maybe provide an opportunity for you to listen and hear what it sounds like, because it will be a quieter vehicle for sure. So I don't have a good answer for you, but we did ask that question, and we were advised to not necessarily get additional equipment for the vehicle.
Yuri, this is Bob. Was that question directed at stop signs and stuff like that, crosswalks? Is that what you were addressing?
No, Bob, I had asked if they were gonna make the buses loud enough for us to hear when we're out and about, and he just said basically no.
Well, I think you'll hear them, but there's not additional equipment on them, and they will be quieter. But we should it would be good to do a field trip to,
You know, they did that in Petaluma a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, and it was very, very well received. So I think that's a great idea.
okay. Thank you, Gina and Bob. I'll schedule that for a PUG meeting. And, or we could do it for, if we do something in person, Dana, at another time, we could maybe bring one by for the TPCC meeting as well.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to arrange that as maybe a post-meeting activity or something.
Right.
We could have the meeting in the bus.
There you go.
There you go. Good idea.
That might not work for our Brown Act, but maybe we can have a part 2 in the bus. All right, Jared, would you like to give an update on Petaluma Transit?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Jared Hall, Transit Manager, Petaluma Transit. So we recently submitted the application to PG&E, the utility, for our first electrification of the facility to do improvements to accommodate our first wave of electric buses. And the city is hiring a couple of consultants to help now with the design of the infrastructure improvements that are needed for that. We'll be doing some bus stop improvements to the couple of our major schools by the end of the year. It's putting shelters and bus stops in at Kenilworth Junior High, Casa Grande High School. We're doing a public artwork project, which is going to install artwork at a half dozen stops throughout the city. And so we selected the people who are awarded that project. It was all students who applied to that. So first quarter of next year, hopefully you'll be seeing some artwork going up at some of our bus stops throughout the city. And then we're still looking to fill our transit specialist position. As you may recall, Sylvia Martinez Palacios previously in that position. That's currently out for hire on our website as well. And that's about it for us.
Thanks, Jared. All right, I think that's all of our paratransit operators. Let's move on to mobility partner reports. Emily Heinzelman from West County Community Services did have to jump off, but she put a note in the chat about that they will be funding their transportation program from their reserves for the rest of this fiscal year. And we'll be trying to figure something out to continue the program for next year.
Dana,
yes.
Sorry, if I can interrupt, I'm just going to jump off. I have another meeting to go to. I just want to see if they have any last questions for me. Thank you all. Thanks, Mohammed,
Thanks,
for sticking to the end.
Hi, Yuri.
Bye. Thank you all.
Sorry for my dog.
That's all right. All right. So, Kathleen, did you have an update you wanted to provide on mobility?
We don't have too much. Our 5310 grant ended let's see, end of October. We had 7 agencies that we funded through that volunteer driver programs. One of them, which is Emily's program. So that is no longer. We are getting ready to do our community needs assessment. For those of you that don't know, AAA every 4 years does a community-wide survey and focus groups in most areas of the county to learn from seniors and caregivers of seniors and people with disabilities of what the needs are that are unmet in the county and different things, what they would like to see funded. And with that, we analyze the results and determine what programs we fund. In the past several needs assessment, transportation is always in the top 5 of what seniors feel is an unmet need. So that will be rolling out our survey January 23, and it'll run through mid-March. And the focus groups will begin in January and go through March. And that's it for AAA.
Great, thanks, Kathleen. All right, do we have any other mobility partner reports? Okay,
This is Colin. Disability Services Legal Center office in Santa Rosa is now open to public again. We will be open on Mondays for orientation that starts at 1:30, and then staff will be through the days that they'll be in the office for the rest of the week. So if you have anyone that needs our services, you can send to our office for orientation 1:30 on Mondays.
great, thank you. All right, item number 7 is just listing future agenda topics that have been requested by this group. So what we have on our list are presentation about a model transportation network company and paratransit partnership program, as well as the state master plan for aging. So are there any other future agenda topics that anybody would like to bring up?
If we can look at how agencies coordinate transit for disasters and during disasters.
Colin, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I got some of that.
No, it's looking at how the agencies coordinate during disasters and for disasters for transit.
Okay, so disaster coordination for transit. Okay. Great.
Excuse me, Bob again, could I be put on one of those focus groups? The other ones? We were
Sure.
just talking January 23rd.
Yeah, I can send you out the schedule of where the focus groups are going to be, and you can pick the one that's either close to where you live, or we have a virtual one that's going to be for people with disabilities of all ages and their caregivers. So if you prefer to go to a virtual focus group, you can sign up for that one.
Hey, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathleen, it sounds like that survey will be going out just shortly after our January meeting. If you have any information to share at that meeting about the survey or any links or schedules, that would be great to see then too.
Okay, yeah, we'll be coming out with a flyer, and I think the county is working on a press release for that to send out, so we'll have the links.
Great. Well, I'll set myself a reminder to check in with you before our TPCC agenda goes out.
Okay. And I just wanted to follow up on Colin's comment. And I see that Jordan's here. Jordan is a co-chair of the AFN, the County Access and Functional Needs Committee. And one of the things that committee really wanted to work on is transportation during disasters, because it keeps coming up as something that people don't know about or how to access it. And so therefore, I think, I'm not sure when the next meeting is, but I know that DEM, Disaster Emergency Management of Sonoma County, they were going to resurrect the transportation work group. I believe you guys might know Richard Diaz, formerly was heading up that group, and he used to convene the transportation providers together to brainstorm solutions. So that is going to be resurrected, I believe, soon.
Kathleen, can you add me along with Bob onto that onto the focus group email that you're going to be sending out?
Sure, I'll do that. I'll have to get your email address from Drew, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
All right, great. Is there any other business anyone wants to bring up, comments or announcements?
I have another question. How come we don't hear from like the Smart Train or Golden Gate very much anymore, if at all?
So Golden Gate Transit actually does, is part of this committee. But John Gaffney did let me know that he had something come up and wasn't able to attend the meeting today. Smart is, since they aren't required to provide paratransit and don't receive the funding that requires them to be part of the paratransit coordinating committee. They are not, they don't have a seat on this committee. However, if there are things that you would like to hear from Smart, I would be happy to ask them to participate at a meeting, if there's anything particular that you would be interested in hearing from Smart.
In particular, just, an update and, kind of opens up our minds to don't forget about it if you need to use it.
Sure. Okay. So just kind of general.
Yeah, just update how they're doing and what they have planned for the future. And they don't have to be here every time, but just something like that once in a while.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Great. So the SCTA RCPA board meeting will be on December 12th, and our next paratransit coordinating committee will be on January 17th. That meeting will be virtual, but starting in March, it will be in person. Thank you all.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mute my audio.